All right, time now to bring in our panel of press gallery journalists. Columnist with the Toronto Star, Joël Denis Bellavance is the Parliamentary Bureau Chief for La Presse. Thank you both for being here this week. Susan, let's talk about Conservatives. Just finished speaking with Scott Aitchison and concerns around party unity and the way they've been behaving on the debate stage in the first debate we saw. The first party-sponsored debate happens this Wednesday. What will you be watching for given what we saw last week?
I went last week to that debate, and Mr. Aitchison, I thought he did himself a lot of favors in that stage when he was accurately predicting and forecasting what people would think watching. I haven't seen. I've watched a lot of one go that low so quickly. And we've seen the reports over the weekend too. Sort of whether it's from Conservatives or themselves. So I'm looking for a tone check, I guess. I thought it was interesting. If they were playing to that room, then certainly the room was appreciating the low blows. But I think this party-sponsored debate on Wednesday is intended to be to the greater party and the nation as a whole. And so I'm trying to see mainly with Mr. Poilievre whether he changes his tone a bit. Right. Because it was nasty and it was personal and it was visceral. It was very much room, but I don't think to the nation. What
do you be watching for, Joël Denis? Given, Pierre Poilievre, every time he makes it clear, he doesn't say he's campaigning to be Conservative Party leader, right? He says he's campaigning to be the Prime Minister. And that's what a lot of people have been talking about is, can you win the audience outside the Conservative Party? That's what you need to do to be the Prime Minister. What will you be watching for?
Well, the same as Susan, the tone, whether Mr. Poilievre will use the same attacks that he used in the last debate, and whether Jean Charest will use different tactics to respond to those personal attacks. But it's funny you say that Pierre Poilievre is running to be Prime Minister. Instead, that in that leadership, the consensus is that he's ahead of everybody. Now, does he project a prime ministerial image by behaving? Questions that people are asking themselves right now, and too many elder statements, if I may say, in the Conservative movement, they don't like what they're seeing. Mike Harris, one of them, Preston Manning, the former leader of the Reform Party.
Right, we've seen
last time.
And Jason Kenney. We've seen Kenney, party people from both wings of the party, if I can put it that way, and the side where the two parties were born.
And to me, they're pressing their concern that will it be possible to rebuild this race? And that you question after the first debate. You asked that questions after the third or the fourth debate, and midway through the campaigns. Not asking would well for the Conservative Party, in my sense, because of the tenor of the debate that are taking place right now.
Susan, over the weekend on CTV, former Bank of Canada Governor David Dodge fired back at Pierre Poilievre. For calling the central bank financially illiterate in his campaign over inflation rates in this country. Dodge called Poilievre a yes, and he didn't use the two initials, two letters I just used. Yeah. He was happy to say the whole word. What effect do you think David Dodge's comments have on the Poilievre campaign and on the race, perhaps?
Again, there are two different audiences here. I think the respect institutions, respect David Dodge, have, the idea that he is a senior statesman, and like Joël Denis was talking about, will be scandalized and worried about that. That's not, it seems, who Pierre Poilievre is talking to. He's talking to people who are fed up with elites and mandarins and everything that is Ottawa. So that there's a chance he'll play it up, and he seemed to enjoy it. He put it out on Twitter today and doubled down on it. He seems to enjoy seeing himself as fighting for the little guy, Ottawa. So I suspect it's this whole question of who is deciding this race. If it is the angry, then Pierre Poilievre has a leg up on that. But if it's a wider audience, it's a riskier move.
What do you think, Joël Denis?
Well, using those statements made by David Dodge and other representative of the Bank of Canada, because we've seen also testimony from Tiff McLean, the Bank of president of the Bank of Canada, the governor of the Bank of Canada, sorry. And Mr. McLean also said that he does not understand why people like Mr. Poilievre are claiming that the Bank of Canada contributed to the current problem right now. It's a larger problem. But as Susan mentioned, Mr. Poilievre is campaigning against institutions, which in part he wants to run afterwards when he's prime minister, if he ever becomes prime minister. So there's oddity there, if I may say that. He's running against the very institutions he wished to have control over.
To watch the if Pierre Poilievre doubles down on that on the campaign stage, do any of those other candidates come to the defense of those institutions, as we've described them, that Pierre Poilievre's attacking? Is there too much risk in that? They're basically giving him a clear path to attack, the Bank of Canada and those institutions we talk about, the elites, and you wonder if somebody like Jean Charest, who's been close to many of those institutions in his career, ever said here.
Well, you saw what happened when Charest tried to talk about the protests as being illegal and make the case, similar to what JD is saying, that you can't run against an institution that you want to run. I think the way he says it is, you can't make laws and then break laws. So I don't know that has worked for Charest. We'll see. But he would be the one you would expect. I'd like to make this a hat trick. I'd love to see what Mark Carney, another former Bank of Canada governor, it'd be kind of fun to watch that too. I think another interesting dynamic we should probably mention is this week's debate will feature Patrick Brown, right, and how that changes the chemistry around all of them will be fascinating.
It gives Pierre Poilievre another person to attack.
Exactly. But then it's 2-on-1 against Poilievre too. So that could be fascinating.
Okay, Joel Denis, let me pivot here to the Prime Minister's surprise visit on the weekend to Ukraine. Spoke earlier in the program to a Ukrainian parliamentarian who was thrilled to have him there. Thought it was great that he was there. Sent a message of support to Ukrainians, and while announcing more money for weapons, more sanctions against the Russians. How significant was it, do you think, that Justin Trudeau, he reopened the Canadian embassy while there?
Well, it's significant, and the timing of it is also very significant because it was on the eve of the military parade in Moscow, which Vladimir Putin wanted to use to promote, his war in Ukraine, if I may say. But it's very significant to the Foreign Affairs Minister, Mélanie Joly, today. And she mentioned to me that the trip to get there was quite long and secret. They took a train from Poland to Kiev for 12 hours in the night of Saturday to Sunday, just to get there. But they wanted to be there before the May 9th, today, actually, before the military parade in Moscow, just to send a powerful signal to Russia that their plans are not working as they were planning. So this is significant, and you could expect Mr. Trudeau, Christophe Hill, who was on the trip, or Madame Mélanie Joly, to go back again in the future. That was mentioned to me by Mélanie Joly. They plan to go back just to continue the support which is necessary for the Ukrainian people.
What are your thoughts, Susan, as you watch this unfold over the weekend and news of it, that after being pushed from a number of different circles, and the Canadian government always said, look, we have safety concerns here. We got to get those fixed first before we send any of our people over or reopen the embassy. But that's now happened. And how important is that?
Hugely symbolic. I'm not sure what substantially comes out of this, but symbolism is important, as JD was mentioning. I was around this. There have been prime ministers who've gone into Afghanistan but brought reporters with them. That was not the case in this one. Being of my gender, it was Mother's Day, and Jill Biden was there, and a Canadian woman deputy prime minister, a Canadian foreign minister woman. Very much, whether it was intentional or not, it looked coordinated with the United States, and they did theirs for Mother's Day. The Canadians did theirs as sort of an expression of sort of I don't know what the gesture is. And the words are fading me, but the idea of a slap in the face to Putin, and being done by some of the most senior people, Canada and the United States, and throw in Bono, who also showed up in a subway.
Right, and played an
the
impromptu
same day,
concert,
too.
U2 in the subway.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's highly. I think we're trying to find out what happens because of this. I'm hoping it rained in today, but who knows what.
Very quickly, JD.
Peter, if I may say, when I talk to they want to do a lot of work to demining Ukraine, because one of the problems that we're seeing after falling back into the hands of Ukrainians is that there are a lot of anti-mine personnel mines left over by Russian forces, and that's a big problem to be sure that the population can go back to its cities and suburbs without risking their lives.
And earlier in the program, that sort of role for Canada was underlined by the parliamentarian I spoke to, that Canada's, while it may not have the military heft of many other countries, it's taking a lead role in a lot of these process issues, the demining, the criminal charges and persecution. So, okay, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you both for your time tonight. Good to speak to you too.
Thanks.